All right. Well, good morning, everybody. We're got another podcast today. That was a great intro. But anyways, good morning, everybody. I had Jibe talking this morning, and we're coming to you from Jolly Roger Sailing Club. And I'm going to use the tagline that most of the members don't like. It's where pirates come to play. I'm not supposed to say it, but I said it anyways. It doesn't matter. So today we have a very special podcast, and we have one of the winning crews for the Mills Trophy Race. And I'm going to have everyone introduce themselves. Actually, this is the most people we've ever had on one podcast. So this could be more chaos than normal. So we'll start with the young man with the beard to my left. And can you start? You can be young today.
I can be young today, yeah. I'm Phil Fry. I'm the skipper of Bay Tripper.
Okay.
I'm CJ. I mostly do sail trim.
Dean Weygandt, the helmsman extraordinaire.
Yeah. Oh, I like that title.
I'm Matt Kille. I'm not sure if we're doing like what we do on the boat or just in general.
Just feel free. If we don't like what you say, we'll just cut it out anyway.
Oh, I see how.
So
this
we
works.
may not even
That's
hear
awesome.
you at all the whole time. So go ahead.
All right. So I just ride along. It's good for fun.
And then our engineer today.
And Navigator.
And sorry, I left that.
Trey.
And he also was a member of the winning crew. Now today's nautical knowledge question. We were going to talk about what's your favorite knot. We were going to say garlic knots, but we used that one already. So can anybody tell me the origin of the expression that it's cold enough to freeze the balls off a brass monkey?
I think I can.
Why did I know that? But let's hold on. Does anybody else know?
I think I know this.
Okay, go ahead. You'll make it up even if you're not right.
It's either one of two different things.
Did you take your memory drugs today?
Well, you said we were sponsored by them.
So you'll do sponsors later, but
it's either one of two things.
Let's see. This is gonna be interesting. I want to see if you get this right.
I think it may have to do with cannonballs. And they were back in old wooden warships, and they were kept on a rack that was maybe called a monkey, I don't know. And if it was really cold, they would stick together. And maybe that, and then it may be they also had early days of compasses to get the compass magnetically correct. They had large, and I don't know what they were made of.
Look how he's got his hands
metal
right
balls.
now.
Metal. Well, I can only speak when I use my
hands. This is not visual.
hands.
You bring in visual aids. Now you're showing everybody. Go ahead.
and they had metal balls that were used to balance the magnetic compass. It's one of those two, I think. But Matt will tell me how I'm wrong.
Option 3. No, I can't tell you how that those are wrong. But option 3 is going to be in the olden days of steamships and steam engines in general. There was a device called a governor that consisted of brass balls mounted on a pivot, and it uses centrifugal force. The faster the shaft rotates, and it's all spring-loaded and quite a mechanism, right? The faster the shaft rotates, the further out the balls spin until a certain point, and that's what would govern the speed on your steam engine. The other phrase that comes from that everyone's heard is balls to the wall. Oh. So the further out those balls spin, the closer to the wall.
Oh, I did not know that one. That's a good one.
So what's the correct answer?
The correct answer, actually, Phil, was the first one. They used to sit them on, I think it was brass, and they would sit the cannonballs on it, like you said, and then it would get so cold the brass would contract and the cannonballs would roll off.
Well,
see,
there you
go. Yeah. And that will be very, very helpful.
So do I get partial credit for that?
Yeah, you can have partial credit for that one. All right. Well, let's just start with. I'm going to go around. How many Mills races have? I think you probably have the most, don't you, Dean? How many have you done?
I have not kept track, but probably 25 or so.
And that qualifies you as a Mills master.
If I could document them, but I can't.
Right.
But don't you know people? Can't you fake it or something?
No. I mean, Phil can't document whether he went to the bar night after that momentous occasion. But we all know that he was there.
He was there.
Do you have visual proof? I mean, if you've got visual proof, I'll
look, he's
contend
holding it up
you're
right
correct.
now, but you guys can't see this, but he is showing a picture, so it is verifying what he said. So.
You just get to make stuff up, don't
Well, you wanted to have the podcast be called Captain Ahab and the White Whale, but I didn't know who got to be the White Whale, but I was kind of not. I was offended by that, by the way. Anyways, we'll talk about that another time. So let's just talk about last year. How did your boat do?
you? We did quite well.
Go ahead.
Well, we won our division,
Okay.
JMD.
So this was 2023.
Right, the 99th running of
Do
the
you need
Mills
the
Trophy
ginkgo
race.
biloba now? Yeah, last
Yeah.
year is 2023.
Three,
That was
right.
a statement, not a question.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we came in first in our division, and we also won the Commodore Gable. Sorry, no R in
Now
Gable.
you're going to get me in trouble with the Mills Trophy
I know
Race
you're in
Committee.
trouble now. Yeah. So the Commodore Gable Award for largest margin of victory, also as well.
Which is quite an award, actually.
Yes.
What was the margin of victory? I know you got your info right there.
Well, I got it right up here. It's about 29 minutes over the second place boat.
That's pretty substantial.
On corrected time.
Still, that's pretty substantial. And if you
Although-
hear this noise right now, that is Phil's computer. Sounds like a helicopter. Anyways, go ahead.
So that substantial victory is going to come back to really bite us in the ass in the end.
Why?
Because we expect a nifty little letter from the perf committee, and we're going to end up taking a big hit on our handicap.
Well, until then, we're getting the 235 on the back of our shirts, right?
Yeah.
They're just sour grapes. That's all it is.
The fact of the matter is, anybody can sail a fast boat, but it takes a skilled crew to sail a slower boat.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
I think obviously what you're saying is get the most out of whatever boat you have.
Right.
Right.
And that's the concept behind perf is to make it a level playing field for everybody.
And are you guys really going to get a letter? Is that really true, or is you
No,
guys
that's
just
not
messing
true.
I don't think so. Matt thinks so, but I don't think so.
Well, Matt's always the optimist in the. Well, I can't even say that with a straight face. All right.
The hull is half full.
How do you guys divide up duties? How did you decide? I'm still waiting for the day that Phil actually says to me, Ted, you can now move into the cockpit. But,
Yeah, that day's not coming.
I already feel that way. But so how do you divide up duties?
Well, what we have been doing is normally we would do 1 hour on, 1 hour off on the helm.
Okay.
But for 23, we decided we were going to use 3 helmsmen, and it was Matt and Dean and myself. And so the idea there is if you dilute the amount of time I'm on the tiller, we've got a better chance of victory.
And less chance of running into something.
Well,
Like how many times did you go aground last year? 3? Anyways, that's another
You
podcast.
just can't see yellow chicken at night. That's
no, that's true. Yellow chicken stuff to see at night. So we
So
rotated.
3 times? Three
we
people?
rotated around, which I thought worked out really well.
And you just, everybody 2 hours or everybody?
No, everybody an hour.
Oh, that's what you just said. Yes.
Yeah,
right.
everybody's an hour, and then Trey was continually on navigation, and CJ was on sail trim, pretty much the entire time. Did we ever give you a break?
I think I took like a 2-hour nap at one point. I think right before we were coming up to around Mouse Island when all the crossers with no lights were coming around.
Yeah, talk about that, because Trey was mentioning something. We were last night at the Friends of the Mills, and like I said, I noticed none of you were there, so you must not be Friends of the Mills trophy.
I had other obligations.
Yeah, it could have been maybe mispronouncing
I
other
take my
sailors.
$100 and put it elsewhere.
Okay. You betting on the game or something for tomorrow?
Rum.
Oh, well, okay. I even
Okay,
forgot.
you wanted to ask us about
Trey was talking last night about a lot of boats with no lights. Is that a pretty common problem?
well,
It must be, huh?
Well, there's the red light, and then there's a green light.
Right.
If your green light's out, it's not a big deal because you have the right of way anyway. But when somebody's red light is out and you don't see that stop sign or look out for me, you don't know that you're supposed to be looking out for them, and sometimes it could be too late.
We crossed a guy 2 or 3 times, and his green was showing, but his red wasn't. And it was relatively close at one point in time.
Like
I
within
think.
75 yards.
Really?
It was very dark out, and all as I saw was like a dark spot. It wasn't like I was seeing something. It was like I wasn't seeing something. Like where there was supposed to be something, there wasn't. It was just a big black shadow. I'm like, Phil, what is that? And he's like, well, it's a boat, but I can see their green light. But it was because we were right in front of them where you could see their green, but we never saw the red. There was no red.
Now,
One of the
go ahead.
safety requirements of the race is you're supposed to have a secondary lighting system if your primary lighting system goes out.
Can you appeal on that? Can you file a complaint, appeal, or I mean not appeal,
Well,
but
you
protest?
could
That's what I'm saying.
You could protest, but we have no idea who it was.
Yeah,
And
hard to protest a boat you don't know.
yeah, we hailed them and told them that their red light was out, but the next time they crossed us,
And then they
it was
salute,
still
and they
out.
saluted you, right? Anyway,
And when Phil says hail, that means we shouted really loudly. We don't know if they heard us.
That's a good point.
We also gave them some sign language.
They're pretty close.
it was pretty dark, but you say you lit your hand up with a flashlight when you no.
Yeah, we did shadow puppets.
Yeah, there you go.
Now during the night, does anybody go down there and nap, or are you guys up all night?
It depends.
I'm up all night. Trey was up all night. Matt was up all night. Dean, I think you were
I was up all night.
Yeah.
Now, Phil down below has about, and he knows I'm going to already mention this, like how many pairs of gloves do you think he has hanging down there right now?
Pairs of gloves, probably 20.
Yeah, at least, right?
Yeah.
Now, is it kind of eerie when you're down there at night and you see those gloves swaying back and forth, especially when you're sleeping in the coffin and you see all those gloves and you finally figure out that he's like a serial killer, and when he kills somebody, he throws them overboard, but he takes their gloves first.
Those are like a dream catcher.
Is that what it is? Yeah. Or a horror catcher, depending. So 20, you think 20?
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah,
I don't think it's
he gave me a pair of gloves at the change of watch. He said, "Don't worry, I know where I can get more." And I'm like, "I'm not coming with you this time." When you're at night, how do you know where the marks are?
That's what Trey's for.
Yep. So
Tell us.
half a mile to the mark, and if I can gauge our speed, I can even say, mark in 5 minutes, 4 minutes, But Matt, whoever's at the helm, is going to probably want, here's the distance, half mile before the mark, and then even beyond that, we're trying to figure out on after the first mark, which was the channel marker. We were constantly coming south as we were following the wind shifts, but it wasn't enough for us to make the second mark. So we had to make a decision: is when are we going to tack so we can make that second mark? And so, like you're saying, I'm pretty much just staring at a tablet the whole time, seeing what the boat's doing and how can we make that mark without doing a whole bunch of unnecessary work.
So that's what makes the Mills race really interesting to me. Obviously, we said this was the 99th running, right? So you think about when this race started in 1920 something. Not real good at math.
Probably the late 1800s, because there were several years. I don't think it ran during World War II.
Correct.
And there were a couple years. There was one year the Coast Guard canceled it. So it may have been the late 1800s.
So what I know about the history is the race was actually purposefully set up, organized such that it would have an afternoon start, which forced the sailors to navigate at night. So obviously we're talking no GPS, no fancy tablets. They're going off of compass bearings, and hopefully they can maybe see some lighthouses and their paper nav charts. So I think about that and what those guys had to endure to do the overnight. And this is a race. It's not just see if you can get there. It's see if you can get there and be the first one there. And you think about what we do today, and we whine and bitch and moan about being tired and can't see, and this damn boat doesn't have lights on it, and all valid facts. But put yourself in our sailors of your shoes, and it's just amazing to me.
Just imagine all the bigger boats that race in the mills where the crew, when they're not on watch, are down below watching movies on the big screen TV.
Yep.
That's cruising class.
That's
the
cruising
difference.
class, yeah.
Yeah, well, you bring up a good point, because I know when we saw the history last year, they called it a test of navigation is why it was started or something. And I guess it used to be a lot longer, and I'm not going to get the exact distance, but I think they used to do like 200-mile plus. And
They were like all the way to Cleveland.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
back,
It used to be a lot longer of a race. But like you said, can you imagine? Not only is it longer, but no electronic navigation. And let's face it, the farther you go away from, if you're aiming at a point, just a degree over, 10 miles, and look how far off you are. Whereas with this electronic nav, you can, and it's pretty dang accurate. I remember coming back by myself from Middle Bass, and I said, how you want to stay out of the shooting area, and it said there should be a buoy, and I looked, and it's right there. And I just thought that was pretty amazing. So now, how do you tell at night, though, if you're trimmed right? Is it just a feel thing? I know you guys here have all sailed enough, but I mean, do you put a light on the telltales? What do you do?
Definitely we use handheld torches, as Phil calls them.
Yeah.
What are you, English or something?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Initially.
Neil will like this, by the way.
Yeah,
You
he
call it
will.
a torch.
Torch, yeah.
Do you call your
I
trunk
pull it out of the boot.
a bonnet? Or
I pull it out of the boot of my vehicle before we go.
So a lot of us also wear headlamps so that we can be hands-free, right? And we'll even turn red lights on so we don't ruin our night vision. But we'll check visually. I know for me, when I'm on the helm, you can usually tell, but also when you're on the winch, you can usually tell. CJ has been sailing Phil's boat for so many years that he can man those winches in his sleep. You kind of just know.
Yeah.
And when you're sitting there in the cockpit following that visual line up, when I say line, the jib sheet, you follow it from the winch, you see which direction it's going, and you get a good representation of how far off of the gunnel your tack is, or I'm sorry, your clue.
Right.
So you kind of know, right? And
Plus
also,
we have B&G instruments.
We have fancy B&G instruments.
And for the 98th running of the mills, Matt wasn't on board, and he's the only one that can get the instruments into night mode, and so they were in daylight mode blinding us. So we taped a napkin over the instrument thing, and then I would have someone lift up the napkin to look at it. But we had Matt back last year, so he could set it, because it's got a night mode and a day mode. So
a napkin.
a napkin, yeah.
It was actually a folded sheet of paper.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was.
It's a tactical napkin. Okay.
Yeah, that's right. It goes into the Hall of Fame in the.
How did you do that year?
We came in officially second.
Out of how many boats in the class?
Don't ask about that.
Can't talk about that though.
We officially came in second.
Were there one?
in
Was there one
22.
boat in there?
No, it was a full class. I think there were 5 or 6 boats in that class.
So, have you ever been out there for the mills and you absolutely have zero air?
Yes.
Oh, what'd you do? Go swimming?
No,
We started the motor.
No, you didn't. Did
We
you really?
did. It was Saturday morning.
Oh.
The sun was coming up. You could look in. You could see your reflection. It was either that or shave, because you had the mirror in the water, and we decided that we should just.
Shaving was out?
We decided just let's go start.
You didn't
the
want to
motor.
be late for the party.
We didn't want to. We were already late for the party. This was Saturday.
This was on the Chrysler?
A Chrysler.
A
It was
Chrysler.
on the Not a Breeze, Vance Harrison's Chrysler 22.
I think.
So the name of the boat was Not a Breeze?
Not a Breeze.
Wow.
And they were becalmed.
Isn't that fitting?
When we had Dr. Dave with us, not in 22, but in 21,
Yes, that was my first one.
we hit a hole and sat in that hole for a good half hour. This was at night, and then a storm came up and shifted the wind about 90 degrees, and then we just took off.
It was a good ride.
Yeah.
You talk about storm. How about a race you've been where really bad weather moved in partway through? Anybody got a story about that?
Well, Dean and I have an interesting. I forget what year it was, but we're in pre-start, and the forecast is all for heavy air to come in, not storms, but just heavy air. And we're in pre-start, and this may have been the year that they did 10-minute pre-starts. I don't remember. And it was blowing about 3 knots in pre-start, but we still had a reef in. And by the time start,
How many knots in pre-start?
probably about 3 knots. But by the time the gun went off, it was blowing probably 35 knots. Oh my gosh! Yeah, and it came up right in the middle of our and that was a long night. That was a long night. We had
Was
Ralph,
it that way all night?
Yeah, it blew and it blew and it blew, and it was out of the northeast, so there was a lot of chop up, and they're probably 6 foot. Would you say?
Oh yeah.
I mean,
At least.
it was a rough ride. Everybody got real quiet that night on the boat. No one slept.
Was that your fastest time across then?
No,
That boat doesn't do good in waves.
no, it does not. It likes flat seas.
So what's your fastest, the fastest you've done it on your boat, would you say? How much time?
I mean, we normally finish right before dawn. Well, we finished. What did we
2
finish
a.m.,
last
I
year?
thought.
It was
Did we
about
2 a.m.?
3, yeah.
3 a.m. 3 a.m.
So how many hours is that?
It's roughly a 5 o'clock start time.
Yeah.
I think the elapsed time on my recorder was like 10 hours, but
Yeah,
that's
10 hours
it's
would
not
be about
perfect because I started it right before the race.
I mean, that's okay, but I mean,
Yeah.
is that about an average time for you to take that long to go across there, or is that slower, faster?
My first Mills race, we were coming into Put-in Bay, and the sun was coming up.
Yeah, so that was
Okay.
that was a lot slower.
A lot slower.
Yeah.
Frosties was already full.
Yeah, second year was a little bit earlier,
Yeah.
and last year was the earliest.
We finished last year. Obviously, it was still dark, and we had a berth over at Middle Bass, but we weren't going to go and grab the berth until Saturday morning. So we just grabbed a ball at Put-in Bay and waited till the water taxi ran to get into Frosty's for breakfast.
we were waiting for the scores to post. What do you mean?
Yeah, well, that's true. There were five of us all on our cell phones hitting refresh.
You knew you'd done well, though. I got it.
We knew, and I didn't say anything to the crew because I'm superstitious and I didn't want to jinx anybody, and I think Matt probably felt the same way. But we knew at sunset we could see everybody in our class except for one boat, and they were behind us by probably 2 miles. And we knew that if we could hang with those guys, because we're the slowest boat of the group. I mean, we won the race because of the handicap system. But we knew when we could see all of them at sunset that we had a pretty good chance. And that we would be able to, if we could hang with them in the night, we would be okay. And it was perfect conditions for Bay Tripper. I mean, you couldn't have asked. I mean, the wind was 12 knots or so?
Yeah, it stayed pretty steady. Maybe,
Yeah, we had a few
fluctuated between 10 and 15, but maybe mostly 12s.
Out of the south.
Which is ideal for Bay Tripper.
Yeah.
And like we said before, relatively flat water. Bay Tripper does not like to cut through waves.
No.
But if you can keep them down, 2 footers or less, she'll do well.
Yeah, she does good.
We averaged 4.5 knots the entire race. That's what the GPS was saying. So, I mean, we were consistent. And that was about where we sat most of the night, 4 to 6 knots throughout the race. So, it was nice.
What is hull speed on your boat?
It's a little over 6.
Okay.
Not much, though.
So it's not I mean, when people hear you talking slow, I mean, it's all relative,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I think my 27 is whole speed's probably about what are they in there, 6 or 7? It's probably about the same, right?
No, are you tall rig?
A little less. You're probably around 5.5.
Yeah. See, so no, I don't have a tall rig.
I mean, we hit some pretty fast going on the way back. It was getting pretty windy. We were on that what was it? We were on a run pretty much the whole way.
Oh, you
surfing
mean
the
back
waves.
from the bay?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we hit a couple 8s. I think it hit 8.5.
Yeah,
Kinda
if you're
surfing
the boat will surf down the front of a wave. And
Yeah, but you get kind of crazy coming back across. All of a sudden, the wind picked up, right? As I recall.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because we were coming across. Because I did not race, but we went out to help park boats, and we had hardly any wind when we left. And but I had to sail up. I thought I will see, and then we got about 3 miles. I don't know, maybe 3 to 5 miles out, and we got a northeast wind kicked up, and then all of a sudden the boat just was crazy fast. So yeah, so you guys, what time did you guys probably left? I don't even.
we left
remember.
after the awards.
It was what, like 11-ish?
Yeah,
Yeah.
on Sunday. Yeah.
I don't remember when we left, but anyways, so you guys sounds like you did pretty good coming back.
Yeah,
yeah.
but you're not racing.
That's it. I was just gonna say, you just set the sails and
Some
rock
of the
and roll.
best Mills race stories didn't happen during the race. Some of the best stories happened on the way home from the race.
Why don't you give us one of those?
There was one year you and I double-handed the boat back, and we were flying. We just had the jib out, and we were hitting over. I think we hit 9 on the way back.
We had our straps on, and we were strapped in, clipped onto the boat. It was a wild ride. It was just the two of us, and we were flying. We were surfing.
That's fun.
Oh yeah,
That's fun kind of sailing. Well, here's a question. If someone was going to do the Mills race for the very first time listening to this,
or talking about it right now.
well, we'll see. I don't know. It depends on if I can get an experienced person at the helm. But what suggestions do you have for them?
do it on somebody else's boat that's done it before successfully.
Yeah. And the other, if you're running your own boat, there is a list, a safety list. It's about 6 pages, I think. And really go over that with a fine-tooth comb and make sure you've got all that stuff on board. And then CJ and I did a
Offshore safety, Matt.
offshore. Matt did it.
Right.
Yeah,
I've gone
offshore.
through the couple different courses. Offshore safety at sea is
Yeah,
what
and
it's called.
they're online. And you
Yeah,
get a
you
certificate.
can do them online. I've done an in-person one before. I agree with Dean. The best thing you can do in any race of any distance is get on somebody else's boat and crew with them first before you take your own boat out.
Yeah, proper.
It gets cold.
Yeah.
We got lucky. It was a pretty nice night. I didn't say it was cold. It wasn't warm, but I think everyone had additional wear in case. I mean, everyone had foul weather gear.
I
Put
think
it on at the right time. That's
Last
important
year
too.
it did not get as cold as they forecast.
it was pretty nice, actually.
It wasn't
Yeah, it
too
was.
bad.
It was
I was
beautiful.
overdressed, but I wasn't cold. It was probably the first Mills race where I was not cold.
Oh, last year, yeah. Which
Last
year was
year.
it that your nephew and your son came with us? It was chilly that year because I remember I put my phthalates on a little too late, and I almost felt like I was starting to get a little hypothermia. I was getting scared. I
Yeah,
was like, man.
you think about it, you can't really say too many good things about last year, right? We had great wind conditions. We had great surf conditions. The water was relatively calm, good for bay tripper. We had great weather in the sense of it wasn't cold, no rain
Best navigation we've had in several years.
by far.
We voted Trey
and,
MVP.
and by the
Yes.
way, we won.
Did he
And
get the
we
game?
won.
Did he get the game ball, or what do you get when you win? You don't get.
you
like
get a
game
pair of
ball.
gloves.
No. You
Oh yeah.
you get to drink as much as you want Saturday night.
Oh, God.
And then get lost. Well, you thought you're lost, but you still make it back to the boat.
That's right. We didn't stay at Middle Bass. We stayed at Tom Thanas's.
Yes. Well, we didn't
yeah.
dock because there was no way we were going to dock that boat at night in between two other boats, parallel
So,
parking.
Where we docked the boat, it was quite a walk into town. But the nice thing about Put in Bay is there's golf carts everywhere. and usually there's an empty seat or two on the golf cart. So I got no shame. I will show a little leg and put a thumb out, and I always got it right. And Phil's like, "You're not really going to hitchhike, are you?" Absolutely, I am. and by the end of the weekend,
With gloves in your-
everybody was hitchhiking and back to the boat.
So you started a trend.
I did. Absolutely.
You know, one of the things I have to say is how different everything is at night. Last year, for the first time, when I went over for Bay Week, I thought, well, I'm going to leave at night. I got to tell you, it's easy to get disoriented. Yeah. And if you're not watching, I made the biggest mistake in that I didn't have all my stuff charged. So I was watching the nav, and then I'd shut it down because I didn't want to run my charge down. Next thing, when I turned it on, I was like, holy crap. I mean, I couldn't believe how much that you could get off when you thought you were headed in the right direction.
Yeah.
And then you think, okay, well, I got something out in the distance I'm going to focus on. You take your eyes off it for a second to do something, you start focusing on something else. And I said, one thing I learned was all my stuff's got to be charged and battery backup, because I could not believe how easy it was. I mean, let's face it, when we're going, if all you're doing is going from Menke's over to Put in Bay, worst case scenario, you could look at your compass and shine a light and go. But I mean, I couldn't believe it, how much different it was.
Well, you were asked a question earlier about the marks that we have to make, because it's not a straight run for anyone who's never participated. You have to round marks, and you're going different compass headings. But most of the marks are either islands, like Mouse Island or Ballast Island, although Mouse doesn't have a light on it, but Ballast does, or they're marks out there. And the disorientation, for me at least, is during the daytime when you see a mark, you can pretty much tell distance from it. You can eyeball the distance. At night, there are lights everywhere out on that lake, and a lot of them are on shore. In fact, there's a green 3-second flasher in by Catawba every year. And there's another onshore light that's a green 3-second flasher too.
And from where we are, when you're trying to find
when you go around Niagara Reef,
when you're trying to find that, the next mark lines up visually with the green flasher that's on shore, and you don't really know which one is which.
And so 2 years ago, a friend of Matt's, who's a sailor on Lake Michigan, came over to sail in the mills. Dave, I don't know Dave's last name.
Dave Wilson.
Dave Wilson, Dr. Dave. And he was our navigation guy that night. And I'm saying, well, it looks like we're about half a mile out from that green flasher. And Dave's like, you're right on top of the green flasher. And I'm going, no, I can see it. It's right in front of me. It's half a mile out. It was about 100 yards off our starboard beam. And we had to tack to go back up around it.
Well, I think it was hiding behind the jib.
Oh, yeah.
So we couldn't see it. But again, much like Trey, Dave had his iPad.
Right.
And he's telling us, we're here. We got to turn.
And those of you who've never sailed at night, it's fun, but it's different.
Go out on a full moon.
And I wish I would have taken somebody with me who had sailed at night, because I got to tell you, I got a little scared at one point, and I just had to kind of tamp it down, because I was like, it started to get a little choppy, and I couldn't see, and I said, it's okay, but I wish I'd have gone with somebody else that had experience. Now, next time, I think I'm just going to go out and motor around at night just to kind of, get a feel for what it's like to be out there, getting back into the marina. But I thought it was beautiful. It was fun. But you're right. If you're going to do something like that at night, you really need to go with somebody else. I agree with you.
I love night sailing. You can come night sailing with me whenever I go.
Okay. I will take you up
Matt,
on that.
I love doing the night sailing. It's peaceful.
Well, the
Nobody
guys
else really out there. Not to
The
worry about
guys
getting run
explained
over.
it well when I got on the boat, because I'd never night sailed before. So they're like, once it gets dark, your world gets a lot smaller. And
I like that. That's great.
the only thing that matters at that point is the boat, and you are on the boat, and this is your world at that point. except for when ghost ships are coming up and
with no red lights.
yeah, so on and so forth. But I mean, it really is, and it's kind of cool. You hear the guys talk about when you're asking about the sails is at night you don't really have those visual cues, so you're really feeling the tiller, you're really feeling the way the boat is reacting to sailing to kind of make those adjustments to keep us going. You know, it's really cool.
Well, I want to thank everyone for coming in today. Does anybody want to have any final thoughts? No final thoughts?
Thanks for having us.
It was exciting.
If everything goes right, we had some mechanical issues on the boat, but if everything goes right, we're going to try to defend our first place finish in the 100th
You
running
will.
of the mills.
I know you will.
Minor mechanical
Like
issues.
engine.
Minor mechanical issues.
We don't need a motor, right? I mean, there's no
I
rules.
think we've got the same crew, and maybe your son, James. Maybe James will be with us too. So we'll have the same crew. Trey, I know, is coming back.
Yep.
I do want to say something, and Matt mentioned it, and I it is a navigation race more than any other races, and some of the bigger trophies for the faster boats or the perf boats that run spinnakers, the skipper's name gets engraved on that trophy, and the navigator's name gets engraved on that trophy. So that shows you how important the navigation aspect of it is. And Trey just obviously did a fantastic job. Like I said, we voted him MVP of the boat.
Did you get him a beverage at the party then?
He had a few.
I drank a
beverages.
lot of beverages.
He had a Nicole's not around, is she? Oh, I think
she's at
I've
the
already
bar.
told her.
It's
story.
going to be recorded, so she can hear later.
You know, there was some conversations over some chicken and, you know, some roundhouse drinks, and next thing you know, I'm blindly walking back to the boat. But you know what?
And I lost him.
I made
Yeah, I know you told me you were worried.
I made it back. That's all
I
that
was
matters.
worried.
It's coming back to me now. I remember that.
I'm talking with him. He and I are having dinner, and words are coming out of his mouth, and I don't know whether it was him or me, but they were just like words, random words coming out.
It was so loud in there, though.
Well, we were at next door at the barbecue chicken.
Oh, at the chicken place. That's
place,
right.
and then I said, "Well, let's go in and say goodnight to the guys," and then I lost him.
I heard good night, and I said, okay.
But we started at the Roundhouse listening to the Amelia Earhart.
Oh, the Amelia Earharts were there. They gave us a shout out. They said Jolly Roger in the house.
We had a couple of buckets of beer there, and yes, we were dipping our cup right into the bucket.
Yeah, it's not a bucket with beers. It's a bucket of beer with cups. Like, oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm just going to let all that go. All right, thank you for coming out, everyone.
Hey, before we go, can you tell us who's your next guest?
Next guest is the National Weather Service.
Very nice.
But at the end of every race, the name of the boat is the Bay Tripper. So you'd be remiss if you didn't end with a little down, 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 down.
I could put some bait trip.
Everybody's up dancing right now. I don't know.